absolutely essential, and I hope that they can participate in services on top of the Libra network as well. And as far as banking regulation, if we ever enter into providing banking services, which right now we're not considering, then yes, we would need to have proper banking regulation. But as it's contemplated right now, as far as the Calibra wallet is concerned, we're going to be focused on payments.
Okay, great. And my time's expired. Thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The gentlewoman from Ohio, Mrs. Beatty, who is also the chair for the Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Mr. Marcus, for being here today. Kind of a great segue for me with my colleague talking about the under and the unbanked. You've heard a lot today, and we've tried to gather a lot of information, whether it was cybersecurity, governance, antitrust, investment, ownership, and now the and underbanked. As you heard, I am the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee. So when I hear under and unbanked, traditionally that goes to a lot of people who have some challenges economically. I have pulled and gone through your white paper, and as I look at that, it wasn't very unique in your problem statement to me when you were citing 1.7 billion adults globally remain outside of the financial system, and that Libra will connect the world to them in a unified financial ecosystem. I think that's a lot of words, but when I think about the under and unbanked, here is the question that I want to ask you. I want to focus on one of the reasons that I read that Libra gives us for why we need a global currency, and that is to address the millions of unbanked and underbanked people in the world. Despite this claim, in response to a question at yesterday's Senate Banking Committee hearing from Senator Brown, you stated that Libra is not designed to compete with bank accounts. Additionally, you said in response to Senator Kennedy that Libra will not engage in banking. Can you tell me how Libra banked and unbanked and underbanked, how you will work with them if it's not meant to compete with the banking accounts and if you're not engaging in banking?
Oh, I'm glad you asked the question, Congresswoman, and I want to separate the different types of services that will be provided.
You have to do that quickly because I have 2 more questions.
I'll do my best. So the first one is that we are.
Let me ask you this way: yes or no? Are you competing with banking or not, in your opinion?
No, Congresswoman, but we will offer.
Do you consider yourself a bank?
No, because we will not offer.
Are you taking people's money and letting them pay for things, letting them transfer monies?
We will be active in payments services, Congresswoman, and enable all of these people who currently don't have access to modern payment systems to move their money around and have access to the world economy. And as a result, we'll be in the payments business, Congresswoman, as far as the Calibra wallet is concerned.
So let me ask you another question on governance. I think in your opening statement that you said that it would not be overpowered by Facebook because you would only have 1 vote. So in the world of banking, because in my mind it's still banking, we're dealing with a lot of banks who merge. So let's say with your 1 vote, you would buy Stripe or you would buy Spotify. Would that now still give you just the 1 vote, or would that give you more control? Because we know these things merge and get bought out all the time. So if you bought those things, would that give you more power?
It would not, Congresswoman, because in the way that the governance is currently structured, no one entity can have more than one voice or 1% of the vote.
So let me go to, someone asked about the training in financial literacy. We know those who are unbanked and underbanked are that for a reason. This is very complicated. We have some of the best minds here on both sides, and clearly there's a lot of unanswered questions, or clearly you can tell from our questions there's a lot of disagreement with this. How do you take somebody from my district who is underbanked or unbanked and educate them if it's no financial literacy? They think you are a bank, because even when you mention PayPal and those systems, which you were the president of, I used PayPal as a store owner, but it was tied to my credit card. It was tied to the regulations of the federal government. So how do you tell us that it's not banking? Because if it's not tied to any of those things, how does it work? Where's my protection? What happens if I do this and we already know I'm ignorant to the process, and then I want my money, I want my Libras back? Can I get them all back?
Yes,
With no problems, I can get them all back and put that money back into my account.
yes, Congresswoman, in the same way that PayPal and others are connected to the banking system, Libra wallet will be also connected
My
to the
time
banking
is up. I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Williams, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo the comments of some of my colleagues that this hearing somewhat seems premature. So far, private companies are beginning to form an association that has released. We've talked about a 12-page white paper describing the general idea of this global cryptocurrency. It seems like there is a lot more work to be done internally at Libra before we in Congress can seriously examine all the regulatory and security hurdles that we all are concerned about, that you heard from both sides today. There are many more pressing issues that we need to deal with, I believe, before we all go home for the August recess in a couple of weeks. We haven't acted on the impending debt ceiling. Our reckless government spending is out there. There's still no budget deal. There's no XM authorization bill that has businesses all over the country nervous. And we're at the beginning of hurricane season. We still can't get the flood insurance package to a vote on the floor. So I understand the interest in this new idea. I'm from the old school, but I think our time would be much better spent working on issues that will benefit the American people immediately, rather than preemptively trying to stop this idea from even being explored by Facebook and other industry participants. We should not discourage the private sector. I'm a big private sector guy. We should not discourage the private sector from investing their own time, their own money, to research these new technologies. No matter what policies we enact up here in Congress, the private sector is the engine that creates solutions to some of these great problems. And Mr. Marcus, I applaud your entrepreneurial spirit, and it leads me to believe you are probably a capitalist, are you not? That's a yes or?
I believe we all are at this country.
Okay, thank you. That's good. That helps our record there. And also, so with that in mind, would you believe that the private sector rather than the government is better suited to explore the potentials of blockchain technology in the financial services space?
Congressman, I believe that in this specific case, it requires both the innovation capabilities of the private sector and the oversight of the government and regulatory bodies for this project to be successful specifically.
Okay. So Facebook has already stated that it won't launch the cryptocurrency in India due to regulatory issues. Can you explain the issues you ran into in India, and do you anticipate that you will not be able to launch this project in other countries?
Congressman, there will be countries in which the Libra wallet itself will not be able to operate. But since the network is interoperable and other wallets can emerge in different regions and transactions are possible between wallets, unlike the current system which constrains transactions within one wallet, we believe that others will emerge in other countries that will enable access to a greater a number of people who currently don't have access to modern financial services.
Okay. Something that I saw in your white paper is that the Libra Association will be run as a nonprofit, yet it will pay dividends to investors who provide capital to jumpstart the ecosystem. So can you go into greater detail on how you reconcile the association being a nonprofit, yet you will pay dividends to the investors?
Yes, Congressman. So the association is a non-profit membership-based association under the laws of Switzerland that are slightly different. But that being said, and the goal for the association is not to generate a profit, But if it has to pay out income streams, it will pay taxes on those income streams as covered by the Swiss law.
As a small business owner, I'm a Main Street America guy, 50 years in business. I see the benefits that this could have on remittance payments to other countries and with the lowering transaction costs. So innovation is a good thing, and there is no reason we should be stopping this idea so early in its existence. With that being said, I begin to get concerned if this were going to be used in lending. So is the eventual goal to use cryptocurrency for lending?
Congressman, as far as the Libra wallet is concerned, it doesn't have any plans to do so as of now. I do believe that there might be banks around the world that might want to engage in those types of services, but this is definitely the province of banks and not something that the Libra wallet will do itself, and it's not in the plans right now.
Okay, real quick, the white paper also states that the Libra blockchain is pseudonymous, as you say, and allows users to hold one or more addresses that are not linked to their real-world identity. How do you plan on striking the correct balance between privacy and a user's ability to hide criminal activities?
I'm really glad you asked this question, Congressman, because I think this is misunderstood. The fact that there's no personally identifiable information on the blockchain is not a virtue of the fact that people are not identified on the platform. It is just that it would be irresponsible to have personal data be publicly available. That being said, wallets and on and off ramps will be regulated and have proper KYC.
Okay, my time's back. Thank you for being here today.
The gentleman from Guam, Mr. San Nicolas, who is also the Vice Chair for the Committee on Financial Services, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Marcus, what does the organization project the average user will have as a Libra balance?
Congressman, we have not projected average balances at this point.
You really expect me to believe that? Facebook is built around average users.